What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Bianconeri Zone for another daily news show. Tonali on the thumbnail, and I know what you guys will say. Stop taking the piss. And yeah, I'm not gonna say Tonali is a possibility. I'm not saying we're signing Tonali. I'm not even saying the story is really reliable because of all the swaps involved. But what I do want to say is that the backstory coming from Fabrizio Romano and other persons is extremely interesting because that is more important rather than actually the story of Tonali, or are we going to bring in Tonali? Yes or no? Then there's an update on Kolo Muani because German journalists have set a fire, and Fabrizio Romano came out, and other journalists came out to say, well, just don't set the fire because Kolo Muani wants Juve, Veiga wants Juve, and actually called Juve to ask if there's a possibility to come back. And then there's also an update on Miretti as well from Fabrizio Romano, which is extremely interesting because we have been talking about Miretti all this time, and Fabrizio Romano said something extremely interesting when it comes to Fabio Miretti. Before we get into it, as always, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, but at least and especially hit the like button. Do that right now. Let's push to 100. Should be easy and helps out the channel massively, obviously. Tonali, you all heard the story. You all heard the story, excuse me. We want Tonali, and we are willing to offer Vlahovic, Douglas Luiz, and Savona. Believable? No, absolutely not believable. So that's not really the point of the story. I will read out what Romano said because he didn't talk about the swap. He basically said that, with all due respect to ardent journalists, and he was basically saying that, well, all the swap players we trying to involve, forget about that. That's not realistic. He said, what we know is that Tonali is a secret dream for Juve, not so secret. He said, it's an obsession. It was an obsession when Giuntoli was there, and it's an obsession slash dream when Comoli came in even this summer. And the entire summer, the club tried to understand what Newcastle's stand is on the player, trying to see, do you want to sell him? Yes or no? But for Newcastle, it's been an extremely difficult window. Actually, they get rejected by every single player out there. Even the players you shouldn't get rejected by, they're getting rejected. And he said, in terms of transfers and selling players with the Isaac situation, they cannot do that towards the fan base, selling Tonali. Then Monblano came out and said that's basically the same point. With all due respect, Monblano said at the start of the summer, the club said, Newcastle said, if you want Tonali, you need to pay 100 million. What basically means he's not for sale because nobody's paying 100 million for Sandro Tonali. So the story is more important. It's not about the offers we're going to make or not going to make, whatever. It's about the club having a dream signing, having the ambition to bring in a player. However, not pouncing, not even trying, not even showing an attempt to do that. Is that because Newcastle said 100 million, which basically means he's not for sale? Or is it where the club is in a situation? This is probably one of the worst transfer windows we've had in a very long time. And it's because of mistakes in the past. We're stuck. We're stuck with a lot of players and we're making decisions, the fan base. And I don't think the club I don't think the club wants to keep Kostic and Kelly and Rugani. But these players have no offers. That's one. Or they're on so much money, some of them, that even the offers that come in, the clubs were trying to sign them. They want the player to asking the player to lower their demands. The player not doing that, asking Juve to pay part of the wages, and the club is not doing that. Either way, it's a difficult window for the club, and we are struggling. That's why it's not. I think if we move out all these players, the numbers of the squad, we have the possibility to do these type of deals. Move out Douglas Luiz, and it all goes according to Vlahovic leaves because now Milan are in for somebody else, and all these things happen, then fine. I believe it can happen. But right now, we're not in that situation. The only positive I take out of that story is that actually the club wants these players and actually ask for these players because they can want Lamine Yamal, but that's not realistic. Sandro might not be realistic, but at least they made an attempt in terms of like what are the possibilities. But we are stuck this summer. It's a bad. Tudor is going to need to work miracles next season because the squad he's having is not good enough. But some of these players are not going to be here next summer. Out of contract, one, and if the club is smart, they don't renew and they bite the bullet. Kenny, Vlahovic, Kostic, Rugani, you let them go. If you don't sell them right now, do not hand them new deals because you're going to set you up to be in trouble again down the line. And with Vlahovic, it's a big one because Milan are going for Yulman from from Manu, and the news is that the problem for Vlahovic, he's not lowering his 12 million euros, so we are stuck. So the Tonali, that's that 100 million, basically saying, well, he's not for sale. Let's move on to Kolo Muani. German reports came out saying, well, Newcastle are in contract talks for Kolo Muani, everybody panicking. And Romano came out and said, well, the only club who is in contract talks is, and will be, is Juve, because Kolo Muani wants to play for Juve, and the club is trying to bring him back, and they're in talks with PSG. Newcastle never made an offer. Because Natalia said, same thing, but Juve need to speed up because maybe Newcastle or uh, Tottenham will make an offer. I'm not fearful for that. I'm only fearful if it's 5 days left and Kolo Muani is like, I'm sorry, guys. Like, if you cannot do that, I'm gone, you know? But the fact that Kolo Muani is pushing is extremely helpful in our talks with PSG, because should other clubs make an offer and Kolo Muani is like, I don't want to play for Tottenham or Newcastle, at one point being PSG because you do not want him, and we're willing to pay some sort of money, like a lot of money, even if it's 2-3 years down the line. If you're PSG, you also need to bite the bullet like we do with certain players we don't want at the club anymore. And you're like, okay, because of the players' will, and we have really no choice right here, unless of throwing away money, which PSG can do, but I don't think that's their policy again right now. They did that with Mbappe, and they threw away a lot of money. To be honest, Kolo Muani is basically making this deal happen. If it happens, it's all down to Kolo Muani. Kolo Muani saying no to every single offer. Kolo Muani saying, I want to play for Juve. So right now, I'm not worried. The only thing I'm worried about, he's not there for preseason. Yes, he played for the club. He knows things, but you need to get up to rhythm with the team, get emotion again. And he's training on his own. All these things are not helping the club, are not helping Tudor, are not helping the start of the season. It's not helping Kolo Muani. It's helping absolutely nothing. We play against Dortmund tomorrow. I hope the Kolo Muani deal, because that's the player we want, gets done. At least bring him in next week so he has a full week to prep for the start of the season. Because again, it's Dortmund, it's a week of prep with Atalanta, and then it's a week of prep to start the season. There's not much time. I don't care if Kolo Muani play for the club. You need to bring in players right now because we need players, and you need to move out players ASAP. So that's that part of the story. Another player who wants to play for us is Veiga, because according to Tuttosport, Veiga called, or he asked his agent to call Juve and ask, is there a possibility I can go back to Juve? Juve are willing to think about it, but they need to sell Diallo, Rugani, Kelly, or two of them. And because of the situation, because Atletico are iffy about it, Bayern Munich are iffy about it, the club is hopeful that if it's at the end of August, close to the end of August, and Chelsea really want to move them out, and Juve are like, we want him on loan, and Vega says, I want to play for Juve, that Chelsea will accept that. I know Colwell tore his ACL, but Romano came out and said Vega still needs to leave. Chelsea do not want him. Even when Colwell tore his ACL, they're going to look for another defender. That's their issue. So the club is basically looking at Vega if others leave, and if it's not a permanent deal at this moment in time, or maybe a loan with an option, but no money, complete money upfront this summer. So that's more of a solution at the back of end of the window. Should there be a possibility to bring in Vega, or we need him because we finally moved out Kelly, or Rugani leaves, or Diallo, for the love of God, Diallo still at the club. It's unbelievable. Diallo, Kostic, Arthur are still at the club, but they are. If that happens, maybe they believe, well, we can get Vega maybe on another loan deal. And then to wrap up the news report, it's Miretti. Keep in mind, I've recorded it before I left today because I will be back a bit later. So if something changes, this is what Romano said. Because everybody is panicking, oh, it's 50 million. We're going to let go Miretti for 50 million. Romano said that he is one of Napoli's target, and Miretti is open to a possible move because, well, if the club doesn't want, he wants to play, so that's that. However, an agreement has not been reached yet on the terms, on anything, because Juve consider him an important player, while Napoli feel he isn't a 25-30 million euro starter for them. The talks remain open and to be monitored. So from that story, I think the club wants way more than 50 million, which is good. I'm not saying they're going to get it or they're going to drop their demands, but according to this report, they want more money. They're asking, and if you want Miretti out and you want to quit cash grab, you let him go for 50. If you're asking for 25, 30, you're basically saying if he stays, that's perfectly fine. If he leaves, that's a lot of money. We can reinvest. So that thing is completely open. It can go quickly, and the club can be like, you know what, 20 million, it's gone. We take that because we need that money to unblock the Kolo Muani deal, or maybe sign Jadon Sancho because Nico Gonzalez might be leaving still the Premier League. It all sounds crazy because the window is only open for 20 more days, basically, or 21 more days. And we are kind of in trouble. We're in trouble. We need to accept that this is a bad market. It's going to be a difficult market, and we're going to have a lot of players in the squad, me and you, or just me, or just you, do not like. McKennie, Diallo, Rugani, Arthur, Kostic, Kelly, like name the players. A lot of them, Milik, Vlahovic, a lot of them could still be playing at the club because according to reports as well, Komoli is saying if nobody's paying the money for Vlahovic, he's leaving on a free. Period. We're not just gonna throw him away. He's gonna stay at the club and he's gonna leave on the free. Is that healthy? I don't know. We will see in the summer, but that's the current situation. So in the comment sections, let me know what do you think about Veiga, a late return. What do you think about the Tonali idea? Let me call that idea. And what do you think about Kolo Muani? What does that say about Kolo Muani? Him being, I want to play for Juve. No Newcastle, not Tottenham. Make it happen with Juve. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will speak to you guys tomorrow post Dortmund game.